Happy to kind of discuss with you guys all the work that we've done over the past 2 years with our, as well as discuss the bylaws revisions process that we're proposing for the full membership to consider. We value every member's input, and any questions you might have about the proposed changes, we'll entertain, and then we'll go to a vote probably in October 3rd, and then close on October 31st. And we'll host a membership meeting after that to announce the outcomes of the votes. So today I'm going to review with you the current state of our people and our membership. This is kind of a discussion about past, present, and future. Our board, our officers, our committee, and our members will also briefly review the outcomes of our strategic planning session that took place this past fall and the focus areas that the board approved. We will discuss the future structure of our board, the volunteer opportunities, and leadership and succession planning. I'll highlight key revisions that we're making to our bylaws. Finally, we'll touch briefly on the timeline for these changes to be approved and implemented on. First, I'm going to start you by showing that our board of directors is a mix of both voting and non-voting members. We have 23 voting members that consist of 6 officers, 8 district directors, 2 faculty representatives, 4 delegates, 1 foundation president, 1 voting student representative, and 1 voting resident member. The remaining 24 members of the board do not hold a vote on the board, but their input and insight is often very valuable. It's important to note that the KAFP current bylaws do not outlaw these non-voting members. They're just on the board, so to speak. Additionally, we also discovered that Kansas law stipulates that nonprofit boards cannot have non-voting or ex officio members listed on their board of directors. They can have guests that are invited to attend meetings, but those guests are not seated as board members officially. The board of directors meets quarterly, and meetings are conducted to conduct constructive discussion and debate from a variety of voices and perspectives that will shape the future family medicine profession and the direction of the academy operations. These board members are chaired by our immediate past president, and that's currently me. Next, the executive committee, as outlined in the bylaws, is made up by a president, president-elect, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and immediate past president. The executive committee, as outlined by the bylaws, exists to conduct the business of the academy between board meetings. The bylaws currently outline the CEO is also a member of the executive committee, but per Kansas law, this is also an outdated position. This is addressed under proposed bylaws amendments, similarly to the non-voting members on the board that I discussed on the previous slide. This group meets every month for an hour or more frequently if needed. In general, these meetings are tactical and strategic. That includes where the officers discuss finances, membership retention, CME conference logistics, partnerships, advocacy, the work of our committees and our task force, staffing issues, and outline the board meeting agenda, and much more. And these meetings are chaired by the president, which is Dr. Jen McKinney. The 3 Ps is a group of the president, president-elect, and immediate past president. This is where Tara, our executive director, meets with Dr. McKinney, Dr. Dobeck, and myself, and we discuss urgent matters of the academy, board meeting agendas, membership issues, financial issues, operational concerns, volunteer succession planning, et cetera. These meetings typically last 30 minutes, 30 minutes to an hour every other week. The KAFP also has 6 standing committees outlined in the bylaws, and in most associations, committees, task force, and work groups are the pipeline for building future board leaders. Additionally, association management best practices indicate that the work of the organization's committee is driven really by a strategic plan. Committee and volunteer opportunities overall should be nimble and provide a clear path for leadership and succession. And you'll see here the 6 current standing committees, as well as a handful of other work groups. While our membership currently looks steady, we are starting to see a shift in the total members. Recent survey results are pretty neutral across all categories of membership, and our membership needs are varied. We have an opportunity to identify what niche the KAFP can fill and what pain points we can alleviate our members, prospective members, and customers. With nearly 40% of our membership reaching retirement age in the next 10 to 15 years, we must act now to address the inevitable drop in membership, which will result in a drop in dues revenue and non-revenue for the academy. Next, please. And here it is. The board has been discussing how it can more engage members, which require less time commitment for several years. We've been discussing this for a long time. Executive officers attended the AFP chapter leadership forum way back in 2018 and began to share with the full board what they've been learning about new board structures at that time, how chapters were revitalizing their governance structure, and the implications had in doing so. We had planned to have a strategic planning committee convene in 2020, but then the pandemic hit. Put the strategic planning, the governance restructure discussions on hold. This was important to have those discussions mostly in person. The board recommitted to a new strategic plan and engaged a task force in November 2021 to meet in Olathe for 2 days and develop direction for the organization for the next 3 years. That feels like yesterday, but man, that's almost a year ago now. That's crazy. That group identified a new vision statement, a mission statement, 3-year outlook, recurring themes, strategic focus areas, and presented to the board in January 2022. And this was approved unanimously. And you'll see here on the slide, that was the visualization of our strategic planning from last November. So a couple focus areas, strategic focus areas. I'm not going to read all this to you, but I'm going to go through a couple of them here. But the main idea around the leading voice area is that the KAFP will be a leader and collaborate with our organizations on advocacy efforts. We are also committed to showcasing family physicians across the state in a way that reflects the value of care that we provide our patients. Next, the professional growth focus area really addresses the CME provided by the Academy and how it should set us apart from other organizations and engaging more members in those opportunities. For example, currently less than 5% of our active members attend our annual conference, the Family Med Forward. So that's obviously a pain point for us. Next, and as I mentioned earlier in our presentation, we anticipate that 40% of our membership under the area strategic, under the area of vibrant membership, we anticipate 40% of this membership to retire in the next 10 to 15 years. So we have to put in the work now to grow our membership base. This area also focuses creating opportunities for members to be involved in leadership, as well as membership opportunities for our students. Next, please. The next area was Thriving Academy. And Thriving Academy might be the biggest challenge we have as an organization. The surveys we did with members, leaders, and non-members in advance of holding the strategic planning session indicated that our members didn't really rely on KAFP for resources or education, nor did they really see KAFP as a leader. We also knew our financial outlook needs a hard review and plan to address non-use revenue streams. Finally, it focuses on creating a governance structure that is inviting with a nimble and efficient board of directors that really focuses on the future of family medicine in Kansas. So the board and the staff started to work on the strategic plan and focused on governance restructure initially. Opportunities to expand engagement among the larger number of membership to remove barriers to participation have been identified. The board of directors approved this plan during the spring 2022 board meeting. And if the membership votes to approve these changes through the proposed bylaws revisions, it would be effective January 1st of 2023. You'll see here the leadership pie. It reflects the work of the Academy and how it's divided. You'll notice that the largest wedge of the pie will be the engagement of the board of directors. 51% of it will be done by them, which includes the executive officers and the new board structure as outlined by the new governance restructure plan. Then the work of the various committees, the advisory groups, work groups, and other as-needed task force will support the board of directors. This means that the committees will get direction from the board of directors on goals and work product that supports the strategic focus areas of the 2022-2025 strategic plan, which we just looked at a second ago. Committees will share about 39% of that work. Additionally, the foundation plays a critical role in the Academy's mission and success as well. It would impact probably about 10% of this work. Membership engagement on committees and the foundation will build up members' organization and leadership capacity with the end goal of preparing them to serve on the board of directors. We know not all members strive to be a president someday. Some members are welcome to serve committees without any need to advance up a succession ladder. However, service and leadership roles, such as on committee chairs, have term limits outlined in this plan, so the leadership opportunities are routinely available for new voices. Additionally, term limits will also be in place for director, delegate, and executive officer roles for the same reason. On the next slide, you'll see that you've illustrated more the nitty-gritty of our board of directors and how that's going to align. Under the improved governance model, our board will eliminate the non-voting board seats. That more aligns us with the Kansas law for nonprofit boards. So that would actually reduce our board size from a very bloated 42 members down to a very nimble 13. You'll note on the next couple slides that the committee, you'll note on the next couple slides, the committee that each board seat serves. We've been very deliberate to ensure that every board member is engaged in committees, either as a chair or co-chair, advisor, liaison, or working committee member. Any member in good standing can attend any board meeting, and that policy will always continue. However, to ensure that we are engaging the right audiences for the board meeting discussion, we will always be much more proactive in building meeting agendas to include the particular guests. Next, please. On leadership tree, you'll see here, this is where we've divided out our committees, and this is a little bit more robust and visual, so you can see exactly what I'm going to be trying to provide you in words. Based on the feedback from our prior board discussions, we knew a picture of our future committee structure would have to be painted to provide a level set of comfort that while the board size was smaller at what I said, 13 members, the opportunities to engage more members would be broader. So I want to call your attention to a few significant changes. We have 6 total at-large directors. You'll notice for the first term, 3 of these at-large board seats have emphasis on a committee assigned to them. The 3 emphasis are academic, NCCL, National Conference of Constituency Leaders, and new physician. These 3 focus areas were chosen because of the impact they have on our current board structure, as well as the goals of the strategic plan. These can and will change when we progress through our strategy. The board will proactively address the needs and expertise needed amongst its leaders and direct the Leadership Development Committee, also known as the Nominating Committee currently, to identify candidates that provide expertise to advance the strategy of the KAFP with each election cycle. You'll note here the Communications Committee has been sunset as we know it. As the majority of the work of this committee focused on KAFP awards, we have actually have a call to the full membership to serve as the award judge. This will have a finite start and end time frame, and the purpose will be solely to judge awards. Awards will also now be led underneath the membership committee, as you see here, per feedback from the strategic planning session. All current communication committee members will be invited to serve on the membership committee as an awards judge or both if their schedule allows. Additionally, the membership committee has been expanded to include the resident and student advisory groups, which our new resident and student directors will chair. The Education Committee, the next gray box, has 2 special work groups within it as well. One to focus on special CME opportunities like the Rural Health Summit, Leadership Development Conference that we hope to have in the future, or webinar series we'd like to develop in the future as well. We also like a group of members to create and manage a speakers and authors bureau for the KFP. The next gray dot is the Advocacy Committee, formerly known as the Government Advocacy Committee, and it has 3 work groups. One would be the Family Doctor of the Day Advisors. That's a small work group to assist staff to ensure that materials, resources, and equipment provided in the FDOD office at the State House is appropriate, stocked, and working order. And we'll also work to get volunteers scheduled and recruit volunteers for that service. Additionally, within the Advocacy Committee, and I can speak for this because we've had discussions in the last couple of years, that we need a subgroup for testimony and another subgroup for policy writing. These are very handy. It's increasingly being asked of KFP to provide some of those services when we have an urgent need for testimony in Topeka. You'll notice in the next gray box is the Reference Committee is actually grayed out, and the job description mentions that it needs analysis. In consultation with the officers and more importantly, the delegates, the restructure would dissolve that committee. Going forward, we'll have a dynamic way of engaging the membership in the direction of the KFP by seeking feedback on future strategies and having an open comment tool. We can involve the membership more frequently in more meaningful ways, especially as it relates to specific Kansas issues. In terms of AAFP resolutions that come aboard that we are asked to have analysis on, we already have a great process in place to engage the membership in seeking feedback on potentially controversial resolutions, and it seems to be working as evidenced within the last couple of months. You might have received some emails to that effect. In consultation with our delegates, they are very much on board with this plan as well. They feel like this is more streamlined and it will be more effective for our membership. Next, please, I think. Another feature of this governance restructure plan is requiring committee service of each board seat. And you'll see here illustration of the specific roles as it relates to what specific chairs or committees they'll be involved with. In some instances, the board role will chair a particular committee or serve as a liaison between the board and the committee. And the next one, you'll see another illustration of specifically those director seats that I alluded to with the chairs of each academic group, the NCCL advisory group, the new physician advisory group. And then our directors 4, 5, and 6 are kind of deliberately at large because they're going to join a committee, but it could be a new committee that we don't even have right now, because we have that ability to be nimble and change things as we see fit in accordance with the governance restructure committee. So that leads us to the proposed bylaws revisions. The KAFP bylaws have not been substantially revised since 1997. And so to implement this governance restructure that's been approved by our board already, we knew that the bylaws needed to be overhauled. Tara and I and the executive committee have been working closely with our legal counsel over the last several months to make revisions that would allow the organization to be nimble and proactive going forward. If you're a person in bylaws, you know that sometimes you write a bylaw and it may be very restrictive of the organization going forward. Well, we're running into some roadblocks in that regard. And one perfect example is how our dues were written into our past bylaws, and previous bylaws amendments were just based on dues revisions in terms of numerical numbers. That's now more effectively handled in policy, not necessarily in bylaws writing. And so a lot of this strategy is to allow these bylaws to be more broad and more not necessarily vague, but deliberately vague, to allow some flexibility there amongst our policy and our staff. The board met with legal counsel to review the proposed revisions and approve these changes unanimously during its summer 2022 board meeting this past month. So I'm going to go through a couple of specific changes that are significant. As I noted before, the restructuring of board positions align with the governance restructure that we discussed in the previous slides. So the wording of the board of the bylaws reflect that. The next number is allowing members to vote in person, electronically, by written vote, or in proxy, or by proxy on business brought before the membership at the meetings. This change means we would no longer require all business to take place at the annual conference, which, as I mentioned before, less than 5% of our current members historically attended. So this allows a broader voice for the members that may not want to come to or can't come to the annual conference each year, and allows those voices to be heard in this format. The next significant change would be setting January 1st as a start date for our term of our members on the board of directors. This would mean that elections would take place in the fall. Changeover of leadership would occur on January 1st, but that aligns more with the governance, and aligns the governance with the fiscal year of the academy. So that's more efficient on many levels as well. We've had some feedback about that change as it relates to installation at the annual meeting. We're aware of that. That is a ceremony that's not necessarily needed to be official, but it is a pomp and circumstance, so to speak. And we are going to do significant changes with our meetings to recognize those changes. But the actual installation will not occur on January 1st, because we'll all be playing and watching football on that day anyway. So that's a big significant change, but it's definitely more efficient for our academy in that regard. The next number would be setting a quorum of 10% for our organization membership to have meetings where official business is being conducted. This right sizes the bylaws with Kansas law. So previous versions of the bylaws did not have a quorum provision included, actually. And as I mentioned before, less than 5% were at the annual meeting. So that was not necessarily a quorum. It wasn't even defined as such. So we have this defined quorum as meaning that 10% of our members have to vote on a specific ask. Many people may have concerns about the actual numbers that would mean, but if 10% of our members is close to about 200 members at this time, that has been adequately received. I'll give you an example. This past year, we had an electronic vote, and it was well over 200. It was closer, I think, to 400, if I'm not mistaken, Tara, I believe. So that is not a high bar to hit in terms of quorum, and it's appropriate to have that right sizes us with Kansas law. And the next number is allowing bylaw, next change would be allowing bylaw revisions to be amended by the board of directors as the elected officials voted on by the membership to conduct the business of the academy. Members will also have a means of proposing bylaws amendments going forward, but it'll just be outlawed in policy, but not necessarily in the bylaws. So this ability to amend your bylaws will be, the wording as such will be placed in the articles of incorporation, and that will then allow in writing, I believe, we're centering in, I think, on a 2/3 vote of the board of directors to amend any bylaws, and that would be the board of directors. So in future bylaws revisions, it would be done by the board of directors, not necessarily the total membership. As the membership already votes for the board of directors, that does allow the voice of the members to be heard. So it'll be allowed, but rest assured, the membership will allow, there will be an avenue for members to do bylaws revisions, but that will be outlawed and outlined in policy. Not outlawed, excuse me, outlined. That's a big difference, excuse me. On the next slide, you'll see the timeline. And this is basically kind of illustrates everything that we've done so far. We've prevented, in the spring at the board, we presented this, and the vote from the board was for the restructuring to go forward. In the spring, we also developed revised bylaws. We had a presentation at the State of Academy presentation at the FAMED board. In the summer, we did a board revision, the board reviewed the revised bylaws in the elections process. Excuse me, I got caught in between slides on that one. The next was a town hall for membership, and that's what we're doing right now. The membership will vote in the month of October, and we'll close voting, I believe, on October 31st or 30th. I can't remember which specific date. Once that's put into place, then we can move forward with our membership votes for the 2023 slate of candidates later this fall. And then starting January 23rd, the new board term begins on the 1st. So that's kind of our timeline in that regard. So I know that was my relatively brief discussion of like past, present, and hopefully future. I'll open it up to questions you guys might have. We have a relatively smaller group here today. I will say also that I had I personally chaired a town hall amongst our past presidents just a couple of weeks ago, and we discussed a lot of these same topics, almost the exact same slide deck. And I'll tell you, the overall feedback on that was very positive. That this was definitely, these are changes that needed to happen, that they were probably overdue. I like the fact that we're not only moving personally, I like the fact that we're doing this all in one kind of change. We're bringing ourselves to the 21st century with electronic voting, which I think is reasonable at this point. There's been some feedback provided over the years about how elections are happened and how leadership succession needs to occur. So we have a better succession of our leaderships. And so that, I think this is a good plan for that. And our past presidents definitely agreed on that too. So I put you all to sleep. I know this is really exciting. I love talking about bylaws on a beautiful October day. And so I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Take yourself off mute. Let me see a face. I see lots of letters. I see lots of people's faces that look like their names. So Tara, thank you for allowing me to talk. Jared, I see your face.
I'm here. I don't have anything to really say though.
Jared, thank you for being here. I think you've been here. This is probably the 3rd or 4th time that you've been here to support us through this. So I appreciate that, Jared. So
I'm just here to back you up, Chad.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Call people
Any
out.
questions from anybody joining us today? I know, like Dr. Johanning said, it's a smaller group, but we welcome questions or feedback or concerns that you may have about the proposed bylaws revisions, and voting on those will open on Monday.
This is Kelsey. I don't have any concerns. I'm here to make sure that what I previously knew was what I still knew. So that's good.
Thanks, Kelsey. Appreciate it. Do you have any questions specifically on your end about academic side or anything like that?
No, I mean, I think we're still going to have some representation to some degree, right? As I understand it. So I'm not concerned about it. I've appreciated the opportunity to be involved as a non-board member, but I understand the importance of the changes we're making. And so, no, I don't have any questions.
So yeah, so on that topic, the restructure committee really focused on that a little bit, a lot on the academic side of things, and also the non-voting board representation, because I can attest, and maybe you too, I was one of those guys who didn't have a vote, but I showed up for the board meeting when I went through residency and med school and such. I do think this restructure is a more effective way to harness that leadership. It may not be at the board of directors level, but I think putting the academics and the students and the residents all together in an advisory group, and then having one person represent those people on the board that ideally will be an academic, so to speak, is probably a more effective way to harness that. Plus, I think honestly, in the residents and the students, many times they show up for those board meetings and they're just they just don't know the dealings of the ins and outs, and it's really tough for them. It's good exposure, but it really, I've always wondered, like, is this really an effective use of their very small amounts of time they have in their hands? So I do think this will be more effective for them, and hopefully provide us the ability to still channel in the leadership from the resident and the student angle. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't have any concerns with it. So
thank you, Kelsey.
Well, if anybody does have questions after attending this, we have recorded this webinar, and we're going to post it to the bylaws revision section of our website. So please encourage your colleagues to go out and review it, and then submit questions to myself or Dr. Johanning, or also our info box, which staff monitors, and that's at info@kafponline.org. So, or give us a call, 913-214-1117.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.